Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to share my October reading wrap up with you. I don't even know how many books I read. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 books. And I am about halfway through another one, and it is Halloween. Happy Halloween, guys. I have on my Halloween earrings, and I am wearing like this orange orange shirt with some black biker shorts. So that's my orange and black outfit with my pumpkin earrings. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the books. The first one I read is Stillhouse Lake by Rachel Kane. This is the first book in the Stillhouse Lake series. In this story, a car accident reveals a woman's husband is actually a serial killer. This car accident happens in their garage, like someone runs into their garage and there is a body hanging from the ceiling in the garage, and there is a whole trial. Her husband goes behind bars, but the media and people think that she was a co-conspirator. She knew about it, she had something to do with it, and so the media is really hounding her, and her 2 children kind of take off and are trying to like redo their life, and they move to this Stillhouse Lake community and they think that everything is going so much better until a body turns up at a lake, and then she starts getting these letters from a mysterious address, and yeah, it's just kind of crazy. But I rated this story 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. The main character, I think her name was Gina, but she renamed herself to Gwen, which was so funny to read about. But yeah, so she renames herself, and she is very on edge because she from time to time looks on the internet to see what people are saying about her. And because she's on edge, it was just very intense and foreboding and ominous because you felt on edge as well. There were definitely like slower parts to the story. And I know that some people said that the gun scenes, I wrote it down. The accuracy of the gun stuff was not accurate. So I mean, there are things that aren't 100% accurate, but it is a fiction story. I really enjoyed it. I plan to continue in the series, and I heard that the second book is actually better even than the first book. But the next book that I read is Bird Box by Josh Malerman, and I also really enjoyed this one. This is about something terrifying that must not be seen. One glimpse of this terrifying entity and the person goes mad. They will maybe kill other people, maybe kill themselves. Like, it's just madness if you see this thing. So we're following the story of one woman, and kind of 5 years after this thing happened, and she is going down the river to a different area of supposed safety, and it's flashing back to when it all started, what happened, and wearing blindfolds and just having to survive in that like closed off, not going outside way. And it is terrifying because often, well, while she's on the river, she's 100% blindfolded the entire time. There's also a movie. I'm sure you've heard about this book. It's really creepy. It's really ominous. I did a comparison of the book and the movie, and I have that video available on my channel if you want to check it out to find out which I thought was actually better, because there were some differences between the book and the novel. I ended up rating the book 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read is The Plot is Murder by V.M. Burns. This was my first cozy mystery. I did a whole video about it. In this story, we follow a woman whose husband has passed, and they have always wanted to open a mystery bookshop. They've both loved mysteries. They met in a mystery bookshop, so they've always wanted to have a bookshop of their own, and she's finally making that dream become a reality. She's opening this mystery bookshop. She's actually writing a mystery herself as well, and you do get both. You get the mystery bookshop elements, and then you get her story as well, and both have mysteries. So before she can even actually open the doors on her mystery bookshop, there is a dead body found right outside in front of the building, and you're trying to find out like what happened with that. And then also there's a mystery going on in her story that she's writing, and you're trying to figure that out as well. I really liked hearing the author plot out, like the character in the story as the author plot out the story of the book. There were just like certain funny lines, like she's like, and then there was blood. Whose blood was it? And she's like, I don't know. Let me think about that. Like it was really, really like comical, and it was light and fluffy. Like even though there are dead bodies and stuff like that, it's not as like serious or as thrilling. It's just kind of like all of the other stuff as well. And like her grandmother and her grandmother's friends were really intriguing. Absolutely loved this. Definitely plan on continuing in the series. I already went ahead and bought book 2 in this series, but highly recommend this if you like murder mystery. And it also features Sir Dog, Snickers, and Oreo. And I don't know, I just really, really loved it. The next book that I read is The Asylum by John Harwood. And this is a gothic historical fiction mystery novel that my neighbor actually left on my doorstep for me. And this tells the story of a woman named Georgina Ferris who wakes up in an asylum, and she's disoriented and she doesn't know why she's there, what she's doing. And when the doctor comes into her room, he addresses her by a different name, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry, you have the wrong person. My name is Georgina Ferris. And he's like, I'm sorry, ma'am, you checked under this other name. And so you don't know like what's accurate, and because she's been disoriented and the doctor tells you that she had a seizure, you don't know if it's like something medically going on. You don't know if she's actually crazy because she is in the asylum. You don't know if the doctor has like kidnapped her or something like that. You just don't know what's going on. But she says that she's one person, and the doctor and all the nurses say, well, you came in and you checked in under this different name. And she's telling him, no, I'm really this person. Call my uncle. I live with him. He'll tell you that I'm not there and whatever. So the doctor sends a telegraph to, because it's set in like the 1800s or something like that, sends a telegraph to the uncle and tells him like, hey, your niece such and such, Georgina Ferris, says she's here. And he's like, I'm sorry, you have an imposter. Like, my niece is right here. And it's just so odd because you really believe her story, but then you have to remember that she's in the asylum. So it's just figuring out like, is she who she says she is, or is something else going on? I will say about halfway through, I kind of figured everything out, and that didn't spoil the story for me. I definitely wanted to continue reading it and see like what ended up happening. And it was my first like gothic historical fiction mystery, and I really enjoyed it. I rated this one 3 out of 5 stars, but I'll definitely consider picking up more gothic literature in the future. The next book that I read is by far my favorite book that I read this month, and it is The Saturday Night Ghost Club by Craig Davison. This is one I just picked up on a whim during the month of October and read it and absolutely loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. This talks about growing up in 1980s Niagara Falls area, and there is this boy named Jake, and as he is 12 years old, the summer of his 12th year, him and his uncle are like really, really close. But during that summer, they become especially close. There's been another 2 kids move into the neighborhood, like they're siblings. They move into the neighborhood, and Jake kind of befriends them, and the uncle forms this Saturday night ghost club, and they go around town investigating all of these ghost stories and urban legends and stuff like that. And it's so sweet. It's like part coming of age, part storytelling, exploring memory and experiences and how they form who we are. It takes place just over the summer, so it's really, really interesting. I loved the dynamics of the the uncle and his nephew, and I don't know, I just like how the story weaves itself together. It's very heartbreaking at times, and I recently lost my uncle, so hearing about a character that was really close to his uncle like really hit home for me. And like I said, I rated this 5 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend it. I don't think it's going to be for everybody, but I think it's just a really like sweet, nostalgic, heartwarming, coming of age story that maybe a lot of people will be drawn to. So yeah, if this sounds remotely interesting, I highly recommend you pick it up. The next book I read is Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. This is her debut novel, and I was blown away. I rated this story 4 out of 5 stars. This is about a young woman named Amira. She is Black, and she is working for a white family as a nanny or a babysitter. So one night her boss, her white employer, calls her and says, hey, there's been, something's going on. Can you take the daughter to the supermarket to kind of distract her for a little while. And it's late at night. Amira's out with her friends partying, so she has on like her party go out, you know, nighttime like clothes. But she's like, yeah, sure, no problem. So she goes and gets the little girl and takes her to a supermarket, and there a security guard accuses Amira of kidnapping this little girl because she's black and the little girl is white. And she's trying to explain, like, no, I'm the nanny. I'm, you know, watching her. Her mom sent me here. And it's kind of very relevant, obviously. But then also there's this white guy filming the incident like on his phone and saying like, you know, tell him and all this. And she's trying to tell the security guard, like, are you freaking crazy? Like, just call my employers. They'll tell you that, yes, obviously they know I have their child. So that whole thing does get like closed up fairly quickly. The beginning was pretty intense, as you can imagine. But after that was kind of, they ended up calling the employer, and the dad came and like cleared up the whole situation. It actually slowed down quite a bit after that, but the writing was fantastic. I was totally engrossed the whole time. So the guy that took the video ends up like coming into her life again, and they kind of start dating. And he's like a white guy, so there's always that like black woman and white guy, and like how like she almost had to like explain things to him sometime, and like it was just kind of weird. Like he was kind of weird. And then like there was always the fear of people telling her like, you should put the video out there and you should get justice. And she's like, guys, let's not put the video out there. Like, no. And also just like her working for this white family and like how they treat her. And then you see inside the mom's head, like how she views Amira. And it's just really interesting. I'm so glad that Amira had like a good support system, like of her friends and stuff. And I don't know, it was just wild. It was so good. I did take off a star because like the very, very ending, it was kind of like a massive epilogue. It just fast forwarded in time like so much. I definitely do feel like if Amira knew certain things like going in, she would have been able to, you know, come to a conclusion earlier. But because everything was like hidden from her for a while, it took her a while to like figure everything out. But once she knew all of the pieces, she knew exactly what she wanted to do. And that was kind of the whole point. Like, she's a strong, educated young woman. Like, let her make her own decisions. No one needs to tell her what to do. Passage of time at the end was a little messy, and also it felt like unnecessary. So that's why I rated it 4 out of 5 stars instead of a full 5 stars. But I will definitely be picking up this author in the future because considering this was a debut, I was blown away. The next book that I read is Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas, and I also really liked this one, and this is a debut, so I will definitely be checking out this author in the future. This tells the story of an undergraduate student at Catherine House, which is like the name of the school, and it's this really prestigious school, and kind of her uncovering the dark underbelly of like what's actually happening at the school. It kind of does have this like cultish type vibe to it. It is dark academia at its finest. But don't think you're gonna understand everything. Like, even after finishing, I'm like, what was actually happening? But I just loved it. It was ominous. It was creepy. It was unsettling. It was just like chef's kiss. It was just like odd, slow paced, but it was great. I also picked up a poetry collection this month. I read When the Stars Wrote Back by Trisha Mater, and this unpacks how to like deal with trauma. It explores love in many forms, and it empowers you to love yourself and take up as much space as you need. And it was all right. Nothing stood out. I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. Okay, the next one that I read is The Chrysalis by Brendan Deenan, and I did do a full video reading vlog of reading this book, and I shared my thoughts in that. But basically, we have millennials, Tom and Jenny, and they are kind of down on their luck. They lose their cheap Manhattan apartment and they have to move to New Jersey, but they score the deal of a lifetime by finding this house in the suburbs. It is kind of like there's furniture and stuff like that in it. There's a lot of junk left behind by the previous owners. The prologue of this book is wild, and I will say that the rest of the book just like didn't live up to that prologue. But so they get this house, and Tom discovers something in the basement behind this refrigerator, this chrysalis, And it never really tells you what the chrysalis is, but the chrysalis really affects Tom. And because it affects Tom, it affects the marriage, and kind of like their whole life is changing. You know, they moved away from all of their friends. They're out in the suburbs now. They both end up having to get different jobs. She gets pregnant. And what I liked about the story is just this like ominous, creepy, like what is going on type vibes. But then at the end, it got really cheesy and really sci-fi and just really dumb. It's kind of like the buildup was great, but the climax sucked in my personal opinion. So that's why I rated this story 2 out of 5 stars. The next book I attempted to read, but I didn't finish it, and that is What Lies Between Us by John Mars. This is the story of Maggie and Nina told in 2 different timelines, once in the present and once like 24 years ago. They kind of flash back to 24 years ago, and then like they kind of count up a little bit. But Nina keeps Maggie chained in the attic. She's holding her hostage for some reason. You don't know the relationship at the start of the story about the 2 characters. Like, how are they related? What's going on? Are they friends? Are they enemies? You know, are they related? Like, what's going on? The story slowly reveals their relationship with each other and why things are the way they are, but it's just really, I mean, it's like, okay, right now I'm this far, so not quite 50%, maybe like 40%. I'm on chapter 34 and I'm just not interested. I don't know if I'll go back to it or not, but yeah, that's that. It's just, it's not blowing me away yet, you know, and I'm like 40% into the novel. So the last book that I want to talk to you guys about is Ghosts by Dolly Alderton. This is Dolly Alderton's debut novel. She has written a memoir before, but this is her first novel. And this talks about Nina, and she's 32 years old and she's, you know, single. So she decides to fill out a profile on a dating app, and she gets this match named Max, and he ghosts her. And it also talks about her mom having a midlife crisis and her dad vanishing into dementia. It also talks about female friendships, mother-daughter relationships, and love. But I'm not going to tell you any of my thoughts or my star rating for this because Jacqueline and I will be discussing this on our next episode of Talk Bookish to Me. We'll share our star rating and all of our thoughts and all of our feelings. So you'll have to tune into that episode on November 9th at 6 a.m. anywhere you enjoy listening to podcasts. I do have links for the Apple and the Spotify links in the description box of this video. But I will say I have lots of tabs. I have lots of highlights. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that episode. But yeah, so that wraps up my October reading month. I will definitely tell you that that Saturday Night Ghost Club book was my absolute favorite. It was just the perfect time for me to read it, and I had no expectations going in. I haven't heard anybody talk about it, and I really, really liked it. So yeah, that's it for today's video. Thank you for joining me. Have a happy and safe Halloween out there, and I'll see you guys again in another video very soon. Bye!